Okay guys, so got a little project and it requires this, these, and this. And I'll tell you what that project is here in just a moment. A little abandoned EcoBoost engine update for you guys. So in looking at this motor a little bit longer, I think I figured out what actually failed. I still haven't taken the front timing cover off yet, but I'm waiting because I got to get a tool to take the crank pulley off. But if we look right here, you'll see that the middle silver gear right there that you see, that's the oil pump gears, and that's what this this little, I don't know what it is, it's like a rubber, it almost looks like the belt that's on your, like a timing belt or like a serpentine belt. It's like almost the same material as that, except it's got like almost a fabric-y, I don't know, it's pretty interesting. So that's for the oil pump. It's a dry sump. But if you look, that silver gear is for the oil pump. Then if you look closer at the chain below it, you can kind of see the color. You see it's kind of like a gold, you see those little divots there? Let me get a pointer of some sort. You see right here? See those little divots right there? And right there? And right there? Back behind there you can see the gear itself. You see it's kind of like a bronze, kind of a gold color. And that's exactly what these pieces that I found in the oil pan, that's exactly the same color they are. So what that tells me is that this whole gear, it's completely busted off there. There's actually a little bit of a nick right there on the crankshaft itself. And you can see marks on the crankshaft right here. Sorry, it's kind of hard to hold this thing. Right there and back behind there. And in fact, the back of this oil pump gear is very scratched up. Like right here. Right across the top of that. Very scratched up. So I can see that the chain slipped off, broke those gears somehow. And you can even look back there, and right there, you see another piece of that gear just sitting there on the back of the timing cover. So, ooh, there's a little scratching there too on that chain guide. There's some broken stuff up there. I don't know what it is, but I can see something up there is broken. You see that piece there? Let's see if we can look up in here a little bit more too. Aside from that one piece, I don't see anything else. Yeah, so that tells me though that this is what, that gear apparently is what caused this whole engine to fail. And I'm very curious once I get this timing cover off to see exactly what the implications of that was. Okay guys, what we got going today is I'm going to be installing a relay for my low pressure fuel pump, which is in the tank. So, because as of right now, I've got the stinking thing, it's wired up into this fuse panel right here. As you can see, it's this larger wire right here. This large wire, this 10 gauge, and it's just tapped into a switched 12 volt fuse right there. So I'm going to be changing that so that there's not all of that power being sapped on that fuse box, which I believe actually only has like a 30 amp it's a sub panel, so it only has like a 30 amp big large fuse on it. Big large, that's not even it's like a double negative, or whatever you call that. So that's why I'm going to be running one of these directly off the battery. I'm just gonna mount it right here. I used to have a relay there for some exterior lights that I no longer have. So I'm just gonna mount this right there, run these wires really nicely. It's gonna have to come off the battery, and then I'll have this fuse, and it's a 30 amp fuse. And I even bought some spares because if you've seen one of my other videos that I will actually put the link in the description if you guys want to watch it, I blew the fuel pump fuse halfway down the drag strip, and it was not a very fun time. I had to be towed back to the pits, so that's why I have a few extra ones, and I'll be keeping them with all these in my glove box. So that is what's going on with that. We're gonna do it as nicely as we can with heat shrink tubing and everything. So got splice connectors, so we should be ready to go. Let's get to it. All right guys, so for this relay, what I have to do is I have to have a power wire, a 12 volt power wire. But obviously I would want the 12 volt to be switched because it's the low pressure fuel pump, which only turns on when the key is in the on position. So this relay is a normally closed relay. So it's gonna have a trigger wire from a 12 volt switch source. So it needs a 12 volt power right from the battery. It needs a ground, and then it also needs a switched trigger, and then it also needs the actual pump 12 volt wire that goes all the way to the pump. So what I did was, if you can see here, it goes right through the firewall. Right through the firewall, but it's extremely hard to get to. So what I did was I took this fish tape, and it's a really thin, flat fish tape, very thin, like, I mean, seriously thin. So I just pushed it through. I cut the end off, so it was just a flat blunt end, and I just pushed it right through using some of my electrician tricks. I'm an electrician in my real job. And I got it, so it was down, so I got it down to here. What I had to do was take all this out of here. It's just this one piece right here. You just unscrew it and then unclip it from here. And that's actually that's the cabin air filter. But then I stuck my camera back behind here until I could see it, until I saw that big rubber grommet that I was showing you a second ago. I could see the back side of it, and then I pushed my fish tape through, came back here, looked at my camera, and I could see where it was going. So then I closed this thing, glove compartment, and then I looked down here and I could see the fish tape jammed up in some of these wires up here, and I just grabbed it and pulled it out. Then I'm using some more electrician tricks here, and I made a loop in the fish tape, and I've hooked both the wires that I need. This is the 12 gauge one is a trigger, and that's going to get wired right into this fuse box here where my pump right now is wired to. And then this larger 10 gauge one, which is 12 volt as well, will get pulled to the battery, to that relay, and then I will splice it into this 10 gauge red wire right here. I'll just cut it off here, splice it here, and then run it up through there. So I'm just going to tape those on there, pull them through to the battery area, and we'll be set to go. And I'll show you guys some more of what we're doing with that. But as of right now, it's a complete mess, but we will get it back together soon. Okay guys, so I've got all the connections made, and got all my pieces of shrink wrap on there. We're gonna get these things hooked up and figured out. Well guys, we got it finished up. I apologize for all the noise. There's a highway right behind me. But as you can see, I got the ground hooked up here. It runs around, comes through here, comes over here, right to the relay, which I have mounted right here. And then I have the pump is the larger 10 gauge wire right here. And that one hooks up to the relay. And then I've got the smaller wire, which is the 12 volt switch source. And then I have a 30 amp fuse on the power side coming right from the positive. And that's how the relay runs. And it actually works really well. The truck ran just great. Some people might not like this wiring that I did. I made it really flow very nicely. Used lots of zip ties. It looks really clean. I like the way it looks. The yellow wire in here actually looks pretty cool. So just if you do it, just make it really neat and really clean. I think it just looks really good. And then I'll show you inside what I did. Man, it's so loud. Inside what I did was, right in the fuse box here, was I took power off of this. You have to test them. You've got to get in here with your tester and see which ones are 12 volt switched from the ignition. And then I just used a micro 2 fuse tap. I tapped off the fuse, came off of it with my, as you can see, that's the 12 volt switch source there. The red is coming from the red 10 gauge right here. This comes from my pump. It runs across it runs behind here through, there's actually space between, the, back behind all of the dash and everything. There's actually space behind there. It runs across, down, and as you might see in one of my other videos, I can't remember which one it is. I'll look into that and put it in the description if I can remember. It goes down along the frame, back around, and to the pump itself. And there's actually a grommet right down underneath where your feet are, kind of right near where that rough country and the push pin thing is. There's a grommet that goes right down through the floor, right underneath the truck, and that's where I ran the wire. It goes down through there and alongside the frame. So what I've got going here is, like I said, connects to the 12 volt switch source here, goes back to the relay, and to get these through there, it was kind of a hassle. As far as that goes, then you might be wondering what this is. I actually have my ethanol sensor gauge, which is right there, is ran off of here too. So as you can see, that's why I didn't want to keep running 12 volts off this little panel, because this is only like a 30 amp fuse, and this is the fuse for this entire panel. So I just decided, you know what, it's gonna be better if I run it off a relay straight from the battery. So that's what I did, and hopefully this is helpful to you guys, because I had no idea how to do this, especially like trying to find 12 volt source and all this garbage, because nobody shows you how to do any of it. So hopefully this is helpful to some of you guys who might want to install the DW440 pump. It's very easy, and you guys can definitely do it. It's not that hard. So that's it for now. We'll catch you guys in the next video.